Hello everyone, and welcome to the Milestone 3 development update video for Vagabonds. First off, I'd like to apologize for the delay in getting this video out. This milestone took a lot longer than I would have initially liked. Unfortunately, some features ended up getting pushed off because of this. The big feature mainly for this milestone was the focus camera. That took a lot longer than I expected. It's fitting quite good now and I'm happy with the final result, but getting here was a really arduous task. The cooldown system also, the beginnings of that is now in place. I managed to get directional hit reactions in, as well as just some improvements to the attack system and the hit reaction system. So let's take a look. First thing you'll notice actually is there's a new sandbox. I just wanted to get something in to test different types of terrain. It's important not to just test on the flat plane because we're not going to be seeing flat planes too often in the game. So it's just having some test bed areas to get up and going. We'll start to see how the combat works across various different types of terrain. It highlights that there's no falling in yet. That will obviously be something that needs to come, as well as many other different things. So let's take a look at the focus camera. As before, you can still lock on. It does move into a slightly more pulled in view, but then when the sword is drawn, the camera will pull in and the focus will be on the target. There's a slight depth of field going on there as well. And the camera adjusts so that both the character and the target and the player's character are in view at all times. This, like I said, was a very tricky task, a lot trickier than I expected. I initially got in an early working that took around about 4 hours, and I was very happy with that until I realized that the character was actually not facing the opposing player, meaning that all attacks would essentially whiff to the left of them. Not ideal, so I ended up exploring about 5, 6, maybe 7 different options for trying to get the camera behaving as I wanted. As you can see, attacks now work still, and this focus camera just allows the combat to feel a lot more personal and intimate. Oh, I should also mention that the hit reactions and block reactions have been cleaned up considerably. Before, the blocking was based on the normal that was hit, which honestly was pretty dirty way of doing it. It produced a more accurate result, but honestly it doesn't really matter when it just feels off. Now it's based on the attacker's location. Thanks Gilly for that tip. So now it'll block correctly from the front, and then we now know if the player is behind it or if it's in front. So you may also have noticed that bar in the bottom left corner. That is currently representing the cooldown. What this is right now, it feels a little bit like a stamina system that you might be familiar with from a Souls-like or something like that. That's not the intent. Basically, how the cooldown system works is based on the percentage of this bar. Again, it's not going to be represented as a bar in the game, but just for now, for debug purposes, it's a bar. The percentage will dictate the amount of damage that the attack does. Every action in the game will use up some cooldown, whether it be dodging or attacks or skills. The idea being that in order to get that potential per strike, then the player will need to conserve their cooldown and be very wary about how their cooldown works. So now we also have directional hit reactions, which is a nice bonus from the cleanup for the front and back detection. The character will now react differently depending on which side they are attacked on. This was not a big task, but it's just something that allows the hit reactions to feel a bit more realistic. And that also applies to the blocking as well. So blocking from the front, if you attack from the front, it'll block. If you attack from behind, you'll get hit. Also, just some improvements to the way the attack system works. It feels a little less rigid now. The root motion won't kick in until the actual active frames for the attack start, so players can hit the button and then still make some adjustments. This is especially helpful for lock-on, and also if players decide not to be on locked on, they can still hit even if the other character's moving. They can just make some finer adjustments to their attacks. Basically, I'm going to be making fine adjustments to the way that the attacks work throughout the entire process of this, since it's obviously the most important part of the prototype. Yeah, it's just starting to feel a lot nicer, just constantly, rather than the rigid attacks that it started off feeling. So next milestone, I'm going to be focusing purely on just getting in AI. I've never done AI before, so working with behavior trees will be new, and I just want to make sure that I devote the right amount of time to it. The reason for this is so that I can start to properly test the combat. Right now, hitting a dummy, that's all well and good, but it needs to feel like a competitive game, and testing multiplayer is just a bit too tricky. So getting in at least the early basics of what a bot could be is really going to be key to making sure that I can tune and test the game. On top of that, and through the results of the AI additions, I'm going to be making more tuning and more optimizations of the system, and so that's really going to be the focus for the milestone. Not a huge amount of features, just really making sure that the prototype is in a good place for the following milestones.